Hi guys, I'm Kiala. I am an entrepreneur on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, where I do lash extensions for women. I love making them feel beautiful and just giving them that time to come in and relax for a few hours. Besides doing lash extensions, I partnered up with an amazing woman. Some other things that we help them with as well is content creation for social media pages, videography services, and also photography shoots. We also do a lot of things remotely and virtually for them too. And we just want to make it easier for them. We really love connecting with other businesses and helping them grow on social media platforms. Social media is a powerful tool, and we aim to make it accessible for those who lack time or expertise. Get ready for an exciting conversation on the Todd Atkins Show. It was nice to meet everybody.
All right, this is Todd Atkins, and I'm here with Miguel Iterati. And we're back with another MMA Conspiracy Hour brought to you by Live to Fight Design and BetStamp. And today we're going to discuss Vince McMahon's ouster with a TKO and kind of a, kind of TKO's position where Vince McMahon is out, and now they got this antitrust lawsuit with the UFC looming here right after UFC 300. So kind of a difficult spot for Ari Emanuel to be in. And Miguel, I kind of want to give you kind of your opening thoughts on what you think of all this.
Wild times, huh? We're in wild times. I mean, the bottom line is yeah, Endeavor or whatever the company's name is gobbling up UFC and WWE and thinking they're going to build this conglomerate of fight combat things for the masses and stuff. Um, they're running into some complications. You know what I mean? With the UFC, obviously, you said the lawsuit is coming. It's in April, and there'll be appeals and stuff like that. But that lawsuit is there, and we'll see how that goes. And with the WWE, you got Vince McMahon, who's a second generation guy, stepping down, but he's just slightly less old than Bob Arum. You know what I mean? So yeah, right off in the sunset, you got $1 billion, dude. Do whatever it is you want to do, and whatever that is. There have been allegations like this type of sexual stuff that are in the news now around the WWE for decades, and I'm talking decades. If you remember Pat Patterson, who's I think the first WWE Intercontinental Champion, and he was an executive and he was on the mic for a long time. He was very good. As far as talent and wrestler, Pat was not a guy to be messed with. I don't think you want to fight Pat in the back room either. Rough dude. But he also liked to give BJs to some of the wrestlers. That's out there. That's big news for the majority of the people. I bet you Ari didn't know that when he bought the company. You know what I mean? So crazy stuff out there. And those are just allegations, but there's a lot of misconduct that goes on when you're at the highest level of stuff. You get away with stuff. At some point, when the big, like we have a president or an ex-president who said, he liked to grab women by the, you know what I mean? And the bottom line is men can be men, and even if they're gay men, like in Pat Patterson's case, I think he's actually come out of the closet and is one of the first WWE superstars to express himself that way. Um, ego is still there, and you're talking about big stuff. So like I said, Vince is 80, right off in the sunset. He's gone. He's going to be like a Donald Sterling.
Yeah, but in the overall landscape of this merger, You know, Dana wasn't even at the press conference when it was first announced, right? It was Ari and Vince. So how do you think this kind of affects the overall landscape of this TKO merger?
No, I think it's still strong. The thing about Vince that he has over Dana and over even Bob Arum, and I know TKO and Bob Arum's company is not part of this yet, Top Rank or whatever they're called. I know they're not part of the conglomeration yet, and they may be in the future. But what Vince did is Vince nurtured uh, Hunter, Triple H as a successor. The guy married his daughter. There's a lot of politics in the business that people hate him. And they're probably better wrestlers than him that didn't get his spot. And he's a multiple time world champion, almost catching up to Ric Flair in terms of times he held the title and stuff. And his script was well written.
Mhm.
And now he inherits the company. And he does a good job. I'm not denying that, and you got to play this game with, we only live once kind of thing, So but he's a cutthroat guy, and Vince's legacy is in good hands with him. Stephanie, his daughter. I've been watching videos of that stuff, and Stephanie in the ring has, done everything she needs to for the company, humiliated herself at times for the company. And that's what Vince has that none of the other guys have. WWE will be a powerhouse. And, let's say Dana and the UFC lose this lawsuit, and there's a downslope in fighting and stuff, and it becomes, let's say, lower brow. The WWE isn't going to experience that. They've got good management. They've got solid storytelling management that's there for the next generation. We'll see what Stephanie and Hunter produce afterwards.
Right. But I was thinking like the overall of TKO, like to lose someone of that stature. How do you think it affects? Because we were talking about before how when you have Vince and Dana, now you lose that. What do you think
Yep.
about that dynamic now?
I mean, the bottom line is with the way their company is composed, they've got to be able to overcome that. There's no other way around it. It's gonna come. Let's say they bought Top Rank, and Bob Arum's in his 80s. He passes away, and hopefully that doesn't happen. But you've got to be able to move on. You've got to have the next answer. You've got to have the next move. That's the way, with all our knocks on PFL, that's what PFL doesn't seem to have. They seem to be reacting, not acting. And a company like them has to act. So when Vince goes away, it's like, hey, we move on. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's not instinctual to me as a human being. It's like you care. It's like, oh, I worry. This thing, but corporations don't worry, and these guys should be ready to move on. They should be having a plan right now to replace Dana, to move on if they lose that lawsuit. What are they going to do? They should be in the board meeting, and they probably are working on that, because that's the way these corporations move on.
I mean, how bad is it for image, right? So you have Vince out. You're getting ready to have this public trial. Who knows what's going to come out there? If you're Ari,
Well,
you're kind of in a bad spot, no?
they're both still money making companies, right?
Right, but you're
So
still in a bad from a PR standpoint. The stuff
yeah,
of Vince, like I said, you hadn't even read some of the stuff that came out, but you're gonna
like I
have stuff.
said, the
Yeah,
allegations that go back to the WWE that are sordid, are 30 years old, 40 years
Right.
old. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't need to read that to understand the type of people that we're dealing with. And
Mhm.
like I said, with WWE, they're in their safest ground because that's where Hunter and Stephanie and Sean to a certain extent, or Shane or whatever his name is, um, he's bred the next generation of executives. He's worked them. He's made them put the work in. The guys, and they do it his way, right? So they're in the ring still. Like I said, Shane's taking bumps. Hunter, you still see fight, every once in a while in the ring. Stephanie's been in the ring multiple times, challenging Ronda even and stuff like that. So they that's where they're most advanced. They're ready to move on to the next generation. So they can you're going to see them elegantly leave Vince behind quickly and move on. And Vince, as much of an icon as he is, like I said, he's second generation guy and stuff, and he put the business on the world map instead of on a regional map and stuff like that. But like I said, he very much compares to Donald Sterling at this point as a dinosaur of the previous. How many times have we seen him all on steroids, 70 years old in the ring already? That's his ego. That's him, you know, sticking himself in where he actually doesn't belong. It's not best for the company. So they're going to let Vince go quickly, and we're never going to hear his name again.
Yeah, it's crazy how that can happen to someone who built the company,
Yeah,
It's pretty
yeah.
amazing.
Look, uh, you know, uh, what's the guy that made Penthouse, the magazine? He was John Brady's sponsor.
Oh,
Yeah, he passed away. Done. You don't remember his name, we probably do remember the guy from Playboy's name, but still, those guys, that's things of the past. And Vince McMahon is now a thing of the past. And I think that if Endeavor is going to move correctly here for their stockholders, that's the way they're going to take it. You know, hey, we're sunsetting an 80-year-old. We probably should have done it 10 years ago.
yeah. Now, you had some pretty interesting things to say about, you know, when we are talking about the emails that were coming out with the UFC and things leading up to this trial. You had an interesting story offline that I wanted you to tell about that and kind of the communication and some things.
Which one's that?
The one you were telling me earlier.
Ooh. Okay. Well, I mean, the bottom line is, you know, if they tape record every conversation and every email is available, I really do think that the UFC is vulnerable, because I don't think, as smart as Dana is and as smart as those guys are, I think, especially in the early days, in the early 2000s, there really was no better way to communicate than email and voicemail and things like that leave a trail.
Mhm.
And if that all comes out, I really do think that they're vulnerable. I think the example that you're talking about is that we at Bodog we did a pay-per-view with Roger Gracie against Ron Waterman as the main event. I think Eddie Alvarez knocked out uh, Aaron Riley in that show, and there were a few other great fights on there. And we were calling the pay-per-view company to get on for our second pay-per-view, which was supposed to be Linland Fedor, and eventually was, right. And we couldn't get the executive that we'd been talking to on the phone. They just never answered our calls. Never, it's kind of unusual. And then we found out that that executive had left the company and we're now a UFC employee. That's the one you're talking about, right, Tom?
Yeah.
I mean, could be a coincidence, right? You know, everybody's allowed to try to improve their career, if they were offering more money and things like that. But why that person? And the reciprocal effect on us. If there's a voicemail of Dana saying, let's hire them so we can fuck Bodog, that kind of proves the point, or an email.
Right.
If that doesn't exist, then I'm okay with coincidence. It's like I'm satisfied with my position. Where we finished second or last or whatever you want to call it. But if that type of documentation exists, they're going to lose this lawsuit. And
Live to Fight Design is a fighter and gym banner company in Iowa that is owned by Sean Clemens. If you're a fighter or a gym owner that is interested in ordering a banner, you can reach Sean Clemens on Instagram at Live to Fight Design. If you use Todd's promo code Todd Atkins, you will get $20 off of your order.
what we'll do is that will make MMA smaller across the world for a long time.
Yeah, which hurts TKO even more.
Yeah, no, I think TKO's stock will dive. If they
Right.
lose that lawsuit, they're in trouble. Now, not in terms of, we'll see, how those people recover. Maybe they sell, maybe, but that lawsuit loss would mean the shrinking of the MMA world for a period of time. It'll still be bigger than when me and you started watching it, Todd. But it won't be. You won't see the fights generated that draw the interest of a crossover audience anymore. And that's what the UFC. The UFC has the balls to go for a crossover audience. Get to the point where millions and millions of people are watching this stuff. And I don't think any other company, or if they lose, their company will be positioned to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's the whole merger, it kind of feels like it's about to blow up in Ari Emanuel's face to some degree.
Well, look, if Ari's prepared to play the long game, and what if in 3 weeks they announce that Top Rank is bought? That'll change our conversation completely, because they are still looking at the future. They're still looking at long term. They're still looking, like I said, acting, not reacting.
Right.
So, and that's how these companies play. So if the Top Rank thing is something that is more than a rumor, then I think you'll see it probably pop up in the next 6 weeks or so. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you about something. UFC 300, we still don't have a main event, and it's not that far off. What do you think's going on with that?
Is Kyla and Holly on that?
Yes.
That's your main event.
It's not. It's just on. I don't even think it's on the main card.
I'm a.
I think Holloway Gaethje could be.
Yeah, that's a nice fight too. But I present to you that if ever there was a women's match with Holly and Kayla that you could present as a main event over anything with their credentials, that's a striker versus boxer, striker versus grappler, going back to the old days of MMA. You know what I mean? That's a classic matchup. And they've got athletes, I think, to back it up. With respect to the women. Sure, I'd rather see John Jones versus Stipe. But if that's not going to happen, let's put the main event with the people with the most credentials, and two-time Olympic gold medalist, boxing Hall of Famer, world champion, Ronda Rousey slayer. Holly Holm is probably an athlete that we will never ever see. There's not going to be a boxer that crosses over to MMA and wins a world championship. Holly did that. She's the first and only one. And I celebrate her, and I don't think anybody actually realizes the profundity of what she's done. Actually, she is an incredible and most notable athlete. And Kayla, let's see what Kayla has for her. We'll see. Kayla's got to suck down to 135. So it's going to be interesting. They can main event with that. I told you in the other podcast, I'm perfectly satisfied with the let's say former champions on this card. There's a ton of them, and this 300 card's not bad.
Yeah. Now, what do you think? Aljamain Sterling was saying that UFC is stacking 299 instead of 300 to make Sean O'Malley, seem like a bigger star because he's headlining it with Marlon Vera.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go look now at UFC 299 and see what else is on the card there, because I doubt that they have, 6 or 7 former champions, Jiri, Aljamain, Cody Garbrandt, the Brazilian kid from, they've got Dustin Poirier against a guy. I don't think he's cut his teeth, so it's not like Dustin's fighting, just engaged.
He's a dangerous contender. Yeah, he's a dangerous
and I appreciate that. And that's it's a good step, but that's okay. Kevin Holland versus Michael Page. I guess, if you're going to give Michael Page, the props of coming over from Bellator, this card doesn't compare. People could talk about it, but this card doesn't compare to, like I said, Oliveira at 155 and Jiri at 205 are completely on the crossroads. Those are huge fights for them in their career. Jiri could become a guy who was a one-time champion and fades off into the past. And Oliveira, he's getting knocked on for not taking the title fight in Abu Dhabi. But maybe, just maybe, he actually made a smart move. Why go fight a guy in his hometown? And I know Abu Dhabi's not exactly his hometown, but come on. He's a Muslim, and he's well treated there, and Charles didn't feel comfortable. But when you consider Charles beat Gaethje, Poirier, and Chandler in a row, you're talking about one of the best runs of all time in the UFC. So if he can recapture some of that magic, he's back in the title picture. Jiri back in the title picture. Those guys are at a crossroads. Those are huge fights. And the rest of the undercard, Cody Garbrandt against Figueiredo and a few of the other fights, those are well-made matches. So I'm done with this talk about, people complaining about cards and this isn't good enough or whatever. The bottom line is it's a puzzle, and you have to put together the puzzle pieces, and we'll see what, falls in there. What's the name of the wrestler on the undercard?
Bo Nickel.
Yeah, Bo Nickel.
I don't think they have him a fight yet, though.
I think
I don't think they have an opponent for him.
I think whatever. The point is, to me, is a guy, Bo Nickel, at this point in his career, if you think he cares about being on UFC 300, if he could have been on UFC 298, you're nuts. He would much rather get the fight in, payday, move on, get to the next one. Maybe I'll do 298 and 300. But they got people waiting, So it's a puzzle piece. And 299 is not better than 300. They're not stacking it. And O'Malley, to me, What's O'Malley, the 125 champion?
I think so. Yeah.
Is he 125 or 135? I don't want to get wrong, but the point is remember, O'Malley's not better than Demetrius Johnson. They don't
Yeah, I
care
think it's
about the lower.
135. You're right. Yeah, I think 135. Yeah.
Okay, they still don't care too much about these lower weight classes. Renan Barao was a great champion. Aljamain moves up. Probably going to move up in paydays too, even if he's not the belt holder. So we'll see. But I don't think comparing 299, 300, you're way off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. There's a lot of it's just this whole TKO thing, and with 300, everyone kind of waiting to see what's going to pan out as far as the main event. I know Dana said he was going to announce it this week, I think. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting if we could find out, but
No, and
yeah,
we'll probably record when it does get announced. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like I said, John Jones. Connor? They're gonna move Connor up. What? I'm satisfied with the car as it is, and I don't think you know what thing you do. Go do the power slap thing on the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how that's kind of faded away all of a sudden, even you don't really see that even that much anymore.
Hey, you put your losses behind you, man.
Yeah. I think that's what they've done. It hasn't
Yeah,
been voiced as that, but I think you aren't
I think
seeing
I
it
think I think
as much behind it as used to be.
I'll tell you this: if we're reading the UFC's emails, I bet you there's an email that says never mention slap fighting again
Yeah.
from the boss. It's like put it behind you. It's a stupid idea, a loss, and no one's gonna tell Dana, hey, that was stupid, because Dana's Dana. So Dana could charge on like he knows everything, and more power to him. Let's see how this lawsuit plays out, because at the end of the day, when the judge's gavel falls, there'll be some comeuppance. I do believe that.
Yeah. If they have to pay out billions, which is what they would have to pay out,
Now, keep in
it's
mind,
gonna
listen to what Maisie and the fighters, where their heart is. We'll see if it plays out, because if they dangle $5 billion divided among 1,000 people, that's more than 5 million. That's a lot of money for each person, right?
mhm.
So we'll see if they continue to insist on the change in business practices. Because I listen to Bob Maisie, and I believe he's sincere. I believe he knows his clients are based on that they want to see a change in the business practices. But if they don't change the business practices, then the PFL is dead, and you'll see the UFC continue with endeavor to charge on. But if they are forced to change their business practices, let's say, for example, every UFC contract was canceled and the fighters are all free agents now, that changes the landscape a huge amount. And I think that's what they'll resist happening. They'll try to do that via lawyers, throw lawyers at it, keep it going, another appeal, 2 years more, whatever. But if a change in business practices means every UFC contract is null and void and every fighter is a free agent, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Without
Line shopping for the best odds matters, and that is why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books. Thankfully, there has never been a better time to get signed up, and they are here to connect you with the best promotions industry-wide. Using their link, signupexpert.com-TAS, you can get access to all the sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique features. Most importantly, this page automatically connects you to the top promotions at each book, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced.
Yeah, I think they would pursue it because if they win, now they have the momentum to pursue that if they don't get it right off the bat.
Yeah, no, if they win and they're not held liable for their business practices and they're told that, business as usual, everything's okay, then the sport will still remain where it is, on a upward trajectory for a little while. They'll get big. We'll see. I don't see them produce like Sean O'Malley. Like I said, in boxing, I've talked to boxing world champions, and after Floyd Mayweather retired, the guy who was made the number one pound for pound fighter was a guy named Chocolatito Gonzalez. He's a Nicaraguan guy. He fights at 118 pounds. He's probably smaller than most people's wives. He's phenomenal. But I've talked to a world champion, a guy who fought Roy Jones and actually beat Roy Jones. And he was like, yeah, those lower weight classes, so they don't count. You know what I mean? So O'Malley's in that boat. He's got a ceiling, I think. He's never going to be a Conor McGregor. He thinks he's going to be, but he's never going to be a Conor McGregor. You got to be bigger. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for him to reach that. He probably does have a ceiling, like you're talking about.
Yeah, like I don't like. Has he broken 1 million pay-per-views? No, he could be active on social media all he wants, and color his hair all he wants, and try to be a personality all he wants. But at the end of the day, he weighs more or less than your girlfriend. In general, to the American public, because he's a little guy, and little guys get disrespected even in their own sport. Like I said, I'll tell you, it's Montel Griffin who beat Roy Jones for the world championship at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was one of Roy's first losses. And Roy was real legit. And he looked at Chocolatito Gonzalez and he wouldn't go all in. He's talented, good, good fundamentals, everything like that, but as the best boxer in the world, no, you have to have some size along with it. And I think the UFC has proven that with the way they've disrespected the lower weight classes for a long time. O'Malley's actually one of the first guys that they've actually, gotten behind because of social media or whatever, that they think they may be able to make something. But, I know it's only a weight class up, 145 now. You're starting, but even 145, you had a guy like Jose Aldo. You even had McGregor there. McGregor may have shot up because of that, and then he went up in weight classes. The lower weight classes don't sell. As much as O'Malley better start doing the Manny Pacquiao thing. Manny Pacquiao went through 8 weight classes to get up to welterweight or whatever. He better start bulking up if he thinks he's going to make the money, because that's where it's at.
Yeah. Life isn't fair in the fight game.
Yeah, no, and again, the thing is look, I'm just an observer, but when you see a fighter with a belt and being presented as the best guy in the world, and the models are bigger than him, that's all I have to say. You know what I mean? It's like the models that are, being the pretty faces and stuff like that, and they're taller and bigger. It's like, come on. that was unfortunately one of Demetrius's effects with the way the UFC presents stuff.
Did you watch the fight with TKO and Superlek
Oh
in
no,
ONE FC?
no, missed it.
You know, Superlek beat TKO. You know, kicked his legs out really pretty badly. It was a good fight, but Superlek was dominant, or you know, he was the better fighter, and you know, I think it kind of says something. You know, it kind of gave Chatri ammunition to say, you know, this is one of Japan's best kickboxers. He came to ONE, and he was dispatched of. You know,
Yeah, you know, we'll see what kind of, like we've been talking about, what kind of legs does ONE FC have? Are they going to last a year? Are they going to keep going and stuff like that? I do believe that they put on some of the most entertaining fights out there. That they're mixing stuff like that. That the eye they have for talent is they have an entertaining product. I don't think that their management style and that their vision is, you know, backing it up the way the UFC is a train that just goes on, and they don't have that. You know what I mean? It's like they'll take a month off. They'll do the, you know, and the UFC has no days off.
Mhm.
So I don't think, but on in the ring product, I think that they're doing pretty good, and some of their stuff is pretty good, and some of the Asian athletes. Again, here's the problem with bringing that to the United States is that most of those guys are smaller than the models.
Yeah. It's kind of weird though. You know, they made this big announcement to Kira coming to ONE. He fought one fight and resigned.
Yeah, yeah. You know, how big is kickboxing in Japan? The guy's got a social media following, so okay, you know, whatever. He carries some weight. But at the end of the day, you know, we're still not, I'm not seeing a Sakuraba. I'm not even seeing a, you know, Ensei Inoue, you know, guys that were traditionally born to fight, and they're just not there anymore. These guys, they're doing their thing, kickboxing. It's okay.
Yeah, I think if he had got tension, that might have been a bigger. You know, Takara is very popular though. Don't get me wrong, but I think tension would have been an
Yeah,
even more of a pop for ONE
you've
FC.
got a better read on that than I do.
Yeah.
Like I said, now you're talking about, we go back to WWE. Japan is a regional scene
Yeah.
for kickboxing. So
Yeah.
you're talking about strictly big guys on the regional scene. How they cross over to a world scene, even tension. Like I said, tension is smaller in the models.
Mhm.
That's not, you know, I don't see him, you know, doing tours in the United States.
Yeah, but I think his ability is spectacular style kind of does cross over to some extent.
More in Demetrius Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but Demetrius, he does it, but I would say his flamboyance, the tension, all that kind of stuff. We'll see how he does in boxing. You know, they haven't had him fight recently after his last one, but
Like I said, look, I don't believe it, because you know, I've done some interviews and stuff with a bunch of the guys that fought in the 90s at 125 and 135. And I do firmly believe that at the lower the weight class goes, the more skill goes up. I think that can be proven. But I don't think that carries over to the main market, you know.
yeah,
The heavyweights, what makes the difference in the heavyweights is that they've got the power, and but they also, you know, are you when you're never going to see a heavyweight do a flying armbar
yeah,
like Demetrius did to finish one of those fights that, you know, he's lauded for. And that's the truth is, they, if the understanding of the sport doesn't go up to the point where people appreciate what's actually going on at the lower weight classes, that's always going to be the heavyweights and, the bigger guys and stuff. And these guys are always going to toil for less money and this, that, or the other thing. I have no doubt that they're the higher skill guys, but we'll see how it goes. And Tension, like I said, he's a regional fighter guy. He's not crossed over into the world level.
Yeah. Well, Miguel, it's always good to catch up with you. This is a little bit shorter episode because we were kind of sticking to the Vince McMahon TKO stuff, but for everyone who checked out the episode, hope you enjoyed kind of our focus on that. And Miguel, as always, I want to give you a chance to talk about what you're doing with the rescue.
Well, we didn't even get into Pat Patterson really.
Oh yeah. If you want to, if you have some more that you want to talk about,
it's not that much more. But like I said, when you're dealing with the WWE, you're dealing with a company that's already overcome a lot of stigma. Pat Patterson was an executive. He was a TV personality, and you can look up Steve Lombardi. I don't know. Do you follow wrestling enough to know who Steve Lombardi is? The Brooklyn Brawler.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that was Pat Patterson's lover.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that's why he was pushed on TV. That's what they say. Why did the Brooklyn Brawler, a guy of, he doesn't have top shelf charisma or anything like that. Why was he around for so long? Because he was, in bed, so to speak, with one of the executives and stuff. So
but
again,
he was a jobber. It wasn't like he got pushed. He was mostly a jobber.
He was, but at the end of the day, those paychecks keep coming in, right?
Yeah.
And he, if you look at it, he wasn't a true. When he made the change from Steve Lombardi to the Brooklyn Brawler, he did receive a minimum push. I present to you, he's not as talented as some of the other guys and stuff, so there's some limits to what you can do. But the fact that you knew him, that we knew him 20 years after he's retired from the ring, that may be for a reason. That's all I'm saying. So when Endeavor purchased the WWE, they purchased that. They purchased some of that legacy. It's in terms of wrestling and the in-ring and this and Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and the great guys that are ingrained in our memories and stuff. That's what they were buying. But they also got some baggage. And there's a lot of baggage there. And Vince is one of those people, Vince is a guy that, like I said, he was at the top of the world for 40 years. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that there's some sordid, ugly stuff that goes on. Now, like I said, he's retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that when he goes to the ATM, it's like, oh, no cash available? No, he's got all the money in the world. He's going to live the rest of his life fantastic. He just has to get over the ego bump that, he's no longer going to be on TV and stuff. And I think that's what's taken away from him. He's done that a lot throughout his career, that, fade away, give it to Hunter, get his kids involved, and then Vince comes back and he's the master of it all. And he's been on camera tons doing that. And he can no longer do that. It's gone. And that's okay. He's almost 80. I don't need to see him without a shirt on anymore.
Yeah. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up, why don't you kind of talk about the rescue and what you've been doing?
Well, here we are. It's same old stuff every day. Go out, feed some of the strays that are laying around, hanging around, try to see what you can do and stuff like that. We haven't had any major actions like rescues or anything like that in the last couple of weeks. So, I'm expecting one of those to pop up and stuff like that. But, I'm going to get up at about 4:30 in the morning to go feed some of the dogs over in one of the fields over nearby. So, That's what it's all about.
And as always, people, if you want to contribute, we keep the GoFundMe links in the show notes here. And as always, Miguel, we all appreciate your insight. I know the fans appreciate it. I'll read the comments, and you're very popular on the YouTube channel. And
I see a couple of people that have been watching our videos and commenting and stuff, and I do appreciate it. I kind of feel like, Todd, that we do this for ourselves, kind of thing. Like it's fun, and I won't stop doing it. But when we are starting to get a little more appreciation, it becomes all worth it. So thank you guys, and keep commenting.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, please comment and share it with people, and subscribe. More you like it and subscribe, so obviously it helps the channel and everything. And just until next time, we appreciate the support, and everybody take care.